All right, what's going on, everyone? Coach Damien Michael here, the Shift Method. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. We are up somewhat bright and early, a little bit different for my usual nighttime recordings, and I got with me a really cool guy. We actually haven't talked too much in a very long time, but I'm glad that he was able to make some space for me in his schedule, and that is Mr. Matt Williams. Matt, would you mind giving yourself a little brief introduction for the people listening or watching?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show. It has been a long time. My name is Matt Williams. I'm the owner and operator of FroPro Snack Bar here in Boca Raton, Florida. Also home to our FroPro fitness facility as well. And I'm glad. Thank you for making time in the morning. I'm not a nighttime guy, so this may be a little bit more energetic than if we tried to do this at like 8, 9 o'clock at night, because I'd probably be falling asleep. So thank you.
No, absolutely. I always tell people the fitness industry, made me a morning person. Also, discovering coffee my senior year of college really helped. But yeah, man, I'll never forget my first client ever for personal training way back when I did it at undergrad FAU. I'm trying to get used to 8 a.m. classes. All that's kind of new to me because, again, I'm a night person. And my first client's like, yeah, I want to do 6 a.m. And I was like, all right, Damien, if you can do this is your time, man. If you can't do it, you can't be in this industry, So I'm glad I could make it work because, man, it can be rough sometimes.
Yes, it can.
Awesome, man. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of cool things today. And I know you mentioned a little bit about, FroPro, your company, which we're definitely going to get into because that's kind of partly how we got to know each other and got to speak back when I interned.
Right.
But I want to kind of start with how you got into the fitness industry specifically. So can you give people a little insight into your background into fitness?
Yeah. So I was not a very, let's just say, I was athletic, but I wasn't geared or guided in a certain way at a young age. Because back then, I'm going to be 40 this year, so I'm just going to throw out my age. So you're considerably younger than me. But back then, I love being outside. I love running around. I love playing different things, but I was never an organized sports guy. I just couldn't focus. I didn't take any medicines. It wasn't like that big of a thing back then until I guess I got a little bit older and people started getting put on certain things. But I had no attention. I had no, I couldn't, I just once I was going, and that was it. So yeah, I didn't really get involved in anything fitness or sports related until probably like middle school. So I was probably about 14 or 15. And a lot of my friends were getting involved and it's like your friends are doing something, you want to do the same thing. So at that age, I started, playing a little baseball, started, playing school football and like the basic stuff, like everyone typically does. It's a little different now, but I remember Coach Paul V. He was this big dude. And I remember in middle school, he was the one that introduced us to the gym. Now in New York, I grew up in New York. I have 2 older brothers. We have basements in New York. So like I remember what like weights look like. And I remember, my brothers kind of working out, but like I never got to go to the basement. It was never, it was all like it wasn't like my space. But I remember walking into that gym at my high school, middle school. We had like a small town, so everything was kind of grouped together. And I remember for the first time going in the gym. And it's so funny that like you are asking me about that because I haven't thought about that in a long time. And I know, with that, I just, there were weights, there was, at the time you just walk in, it's just like a giant room with some mirrors and some heavy things and bars and all this other stuff. And it was pretty incredible to kind of just say, okay, what are we doing here? And at that time, it was just like some basic stuff. It was like, oh, we're going to work on your bench press and, some of the things you see at the NFL combine, but like really, really modified because we were still young. That was like my first exposure to the gym. And I really loved being in there. I just kind of liked going in. I like, the music and it's really weird thinking about that. Cause that was so long ago for me, almost, man, coming up. It's almost like 30 years ago, which is weird. But yeah, that was, that was my first exposure to it. And I played organized sports, middle school, high school, had the opportunity to do some stuff in college. I made some other choices. I went to a Division III school, and it just wasn't something that was truly interested in. And I was interested in other things, and that, my life went on a different course at that point, which, is something we can talk about another time. But yeah, no, I loved working. I love team sports. I love working out with other people. I love being involved with, the whole aspect from training to practice to game day, and then starting over the next week. So when I got involved with training, it was one of those things where I knew there were different certifications. I knew there were different opportunities. There was group fitness, there was individual fitness. And there was just some of the things, like, I guess the word is, I put in like some time, and time working underneath other coaches, learning, like assisting, but like I never had that official title. It's like, I really recommend like a hands-on experience. And there's a lot of opportunities to do certain things with that. And a lot of, if you're willing to donate the time, or like when I met you, you were essentially an intern at a humongous box gym that focused on collegiate and post collegiate and regular, I just call them regular people, fitness.
Yeah.
And everybody has to find what they like. And I kind of like the whole aspect of it. I taught classes for a long time, and I don't want to get too far away from it, but like, I know I'm just trying to like speed up the process from like finding a gym at like 12, 13 years old to, where I was to where I'm doing right now. And, from all of that, from coaching, team sports, group fitness, I find my passion for it is working one-on-one with somebody that has a set goal or is looking to generally improve their overall life. And that's kind of how I pursued that, going through the certifications and the processes that are necessary to be, to be like, I said certified already, but to be, held in like that accountability of like knowing what it was. I didn't go to school for kinesiology. I know there's plenty of trainers down here in the South Florida area that have been doing that their whole life. And there's a lot of amazing trainers down here. So by no means do I think, I'm the best trainer. There's a lot of people out there, and we social media that are like, I'm the best trainer. I'm going to get you the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. And they have the credibility to do so. I kind of subscribe to something different and kind of working, I'd love to do that. And there's certain things, if it's out of my scope of handling it, I typically won't approach it, or I'll refer somebody, because of the fact that, there's so many great people down here. And I think that's the biggest attribute of living in a place like South Florida is you can say, this isn't really something that I am well-versed in or is my forte. I would rather introduce you to so-and-so that focuses on this. Or if your child is looking to become, the next, Roger Federer, you need to go train with this group of people. Or if you're looking to add, if you're looking to become the next CrossFit stallion, go see these people.
Right.
So I think once you kind of get, your feel for what you want to do in the fitness world and how you want to help people. And I think there's a lot of people that can lose their way just because I lost my way. And I got pretty burnt out doing some group trainings and some other kinds of, ways of reaching the community. And it exhausted me. I pretty much burned out. And I realized, I was like, man, I love this. And I'm starting to not.
Yeah.
And it's not a good feeling.
No.
So I get to the point, so I get to the point today where, I work with several people that I've had for a couple of years. Not to say this in a negative way, like personal training is a really terrible business to be in sometimes, because you want to help people and they get to a certain place, and then it's almost like they depend on you to do anything. And you kind of have to say, like, we've reached a certain point, unless we find new goals, new mindset, or new, opportunity of what you're looking to do, this may be where I refer you to somewhere else, or, hey, go try this. Cause like anything, a routine is great. I'm a big routine guy. And sometimes you have to switch up the routine. Sometimes you have to do something different to kind of jumpstart, because you can fall into it. I know people that have been doing the same routine for years. They love it. They will never change. They will never falter. They will never look at doing anything else or adding anything else. And you got to find what works for you as the, as the client and as the trainer. So, obviously there's a lot to unpack in what I just said, but that's kind of been my fitness journey from learning what the gym is to what I did to where I am now, which is just a couple of private clients that, they're like family. You build a community and they become part of, kind of what you're doing. That, you get invited, like, I got invited to one of my clients' son's graduations. And I remember awesome. I trained him when he was 10, and 8 years later, he's going off to college. And it's just so crazy. You become close with these people. You become, somebody that, I would do anything for my clients. And, I would hope vice versa, but in the most appropriate way. It's just like, you're there, you're a part of, and you do anything for them because they've entrusted you with their time, their money, and their health and wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit on a lot of really good points, man. The first one I want to touch on, because it's something that I say a lot of the time. And I know we haven't talked a lot, so I think this is cool that you kind of brought that up, which is, you're right. I always say it's a poor business model, but in my opinion, it's the best business model, which is your clients one day, for most part, will hopefully no longer need you, right? We hope that we get them to a point where they're self-sustainable, or like you said, you refer them out somewhere where they can get advanced help or better help that's kind of outside your scope. It's like, hey, I helped you get to this point where your life is and health is in a better place, and now you can be sustainable on your own, or maybe you got your friends and family involved, which is even better, or you went somewhere else. And it hurts in the short term because you're like, I always say you got to pay the bills, right? You got to keep the lights on. So
right.
Got to do your thing. But at the end of the day, I know that now that this person is taken care of, I can now shift my attention somewhere else and hopefully get more clients, so I can do the same thing over and over again. So I think that's really cool that you kind of outlined that, because I would say, I'm like, it's a bad business model, but it's also the best business model ever out there, man. So
yeah, no, and people will disagree, and there's we can disagree in society today, hopefully.
Yes, 1000%.
And it truly is. You find what works for you, what you're passionate about. Because it's like, if you don't want to train individually, then don't go do group fitness. If you want to do group fitness and you're not really a fan of the the one-on-one or training, it can be tough. It's really nice, but like when you train like a husband and wife or a couple or two friends or anything like that, it's really great. And it's like a smaller group style, like 3 or less. But once you find what you're really, passionate about, and I always say, I subscribe to try everything, see what works for you, because you'll never know if you don't. And when you find what does, man, just go after it and have a blast with it.
That's right. Hit the ground running. I also really like to, I always ask people about their fitness background, because I think it's good to hear, where people came from and how they kind of, jump-started their journey. And I started getting a little nostalgic hearing you talk about, that weight room experience, and then also talking about, being with your brothers and hearing that. Because I remember kind of one of my first introductions was in high school. We had this weight room. We had a weight training class actually that I got to take, and we would just be, a bunch of guys blasting music, having a good old time, and just, lifting weights that we were, not strong enough to do, but, just cheering each other on. And our coach was actually a Olympian. So like he,
oh, wow.
5 foot on a good day, like short guy, but just he was also our wrestling coach, strong as hell. And we had the utmost respect for him, and he'd have the workout written every day, and just a bunch of meatheads just trying to better themselves. So really, really good times, really, really good memories that definitely made a big impact on kind of where I am today.
Yeah, it's funny too, because you said nostalgic, and I was just trying to think about, I stopped training for a long time. My last like group coaching was I coached at a high school varsity baseball. I was like the, assistant coach. There was the head coach, the assistant coach, and I did a lot of the strength and conditioning and running and stuff like that outside. And it was funny for a while. It went away, and I remember I went into the corporate world. I was a teacher for a long time. And like I said, a lot of things changed for me because of my personal decisions, where I lost the ability to do certain things. And when I started kind of realizing, man, there's like something missing in my life, and there's something that I miss doing, even though like I was working out and doing my own thing. And, I was doing some stuff at like, outside on like the fields in Boca Raton. I was like, I missed that gym routine and that, and then, I started doing some group fitness again, but, I really had to take a second because like I was in a corporate setting. I really liked the money I made.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the benefits of working where I worked, but it became one of those things where I wasn't truly happy there.
Yeah.
Even though I loved everybody I worked with, and it wasn't like I was like showing up, and I was more excited about, I'm an early riser. So I was more excited about the class I would train at 5:30 a.m. and train a client, then shower and go to the office than I was for the 7 to 8, 9 hours I was at the office.
Right.
Sometimes I would leave in the middle of the day on my lunch break and train a client. I was happier on the way there, while there. And when I was coming back, I was like, man, that was great. And it kind of revived me to keep going through the day. But then I realized, I was like, this isn't really something that fills me up. I really am not enjoying the corporate life. So it was a scary time, and it was tough to walk away from that money and that security to start. Like I started over, essentially a personal training business. I started over in 2014, 2014 or 15. I started over again, and it was one of the probably best decisions ever. But like you, it was funny. Like I would be up early, and I had really a lot of connections from teaching and tutoring. And when kids would get off school, it was like that wheelhouse of like, I've been up since 4 a.m. and working. And there was sometimes I would go home and try to take a nap, and someone would be like, hey man, do you mind if we can like book my kid for a session at 1:30? And no one really trains that much. I shouldn't say no one, but there's usually a lull in the gym, right?
Yeah.
Between lunch and like 4:35, right? And it can be primetime training hours, because I was literally the only one there, and I was training people, and it was one of those things that I built my business on, is working with young adults and instilling routine and sharing what I did, and just like Coach Paul did for me back when I was 12 or 13 years old, and I was at the gym. So it just made me think. Yeah, you said like nostalgic. It just made me think of how I restarted building a fitness kind of program and working with people again.
Yeah. And I really like to hear that too, because I think oftentimes, young people, myself included, because people know my goal is to one day hopefully own my own fitness facility and fully, be invested in personal training, group fitness, have my own kind of statement in the fitness industry in that manner. And it's scary, especially like you said, when you have that nice job, when you have that security blanket, when you have those benefits, when you have a mortgage, when you have a car payment, to drop all that, or to drop the flow of income that is consistently going to be there, and say, I'm going to take a risk.
Right.
That's scary to a lot of people, and understandably so. The thing I always like to tell people too is, and if you disagree, sir, completely understand, but I always tell people, like, this isn't a statement of like, hey, quit your job now. And like, have a plan and make sure this is something that, like you always said, like, make sure this is something that you truly want, and you're doing it because it makes you happy and because you want to help people. Don't just do it because you want to just be a gym owner. Don't just do it because, you just want to have a business to have a business. If this is something that you truly see and want because you're looking to be happy, you don't find yourself to be happy, and because you want to help fulfill other people, then that's something to make a call on.
Well, I think so too. I mean, to add to your point, I agree with you. And I didn't walk away, like I had been training and doing group fitness, and, the plan was, it's like, I've saved X amount of money. I've paid this, and this. And, if I start over and again, I was starting that process of building personal clientele again, and, essentially giving my time away for next to nothing, because I was paying rent to be at the gym, as well as saying to clients, like, listen, this is going to cover my rent and a little bit of money for me. I want to give you 10 sessions for X amount. This is what's going to the house. I was very transparent. This is what's going to happen. This is what's coming to me. I want to see if I can help you work on what you just said. And I want to help you reach that goal, or I want to help you achieve this because you want to get better at class, or get better at this, or get better at that. So it's like slowly working with people and building up to a point where it's like, after we, let's just say 10 sessions, after we do 10 sessions, this is what it will look like in terms of cost. If you believe I'm giving you that service and this is going to be a benefit to you, this is what it will cost. And, when you're honest with people and you're very transparent in dealings with business, and this is the other side of it, not all trainers, they could be the best hype man, the best trainer, have the best abs, biceps, body, butt, whatever. They may not be the best business person, and that's okay. And that's fine. So that's why I think you have to learn what you like about it. I also like the training business of it and being involved in how things grow and investing in other people and giving other people, the chance. I find it really funny when gym owners, let's just say you have a kick-ass squad of trainers, when one wants to leave, it's like, yeah, sure, it hurts, but like, that's what you want. You want them to excel. You want them to go on. You want them to succeed. You want them to be, like you just shared, to have their own gym, to have their own, group fitness, individuals fitness, whatever thing that they want to do, because that helps and improves the community. And some people look at, and I get it, it can be looked at as, man, you're not loyal. I gave you this chance. And it's like, no, absolutely. As long as I think, you leave the right way, you're very clear about your motives. And it's like, I'm not going after your clients. These are the clients that I work with because I've been working with them in your facility, and I'm not trying to take anybody. I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to, book a class at the same time and take all those people. But, things change, people change. And, you may lose some people, because you lost a good trainer, but at the same time, you have to celebrate that. Yes. You have to celebrate somebody moving forward and moving on. And I think a lot of times, like, I get it, man, I'm a sensitive guy. And, if I feel like my feelings get hurt, I'm like, man, fuck this. But then I have to realize it's like, man, this is what I wanted, and someone will want to go, do something else or completely leave the fitness industry entirely and just be burnt out or tired. And it's, I feel like there's a lot of, there's a lot lost in that. And it's a bummer because, time heals all and certain things, eventually get, work through. But yeah, I mean, based on my experience, I've been a part of some really, really kick-ass gyms that are still doing their deal. It's crazy. Like the corporate company that I was involved in that was crushing it back in the day, it doesn't even exist anymore.
No, man.
I think about like, man, what if I rode this until the dead end and literally got to the end and there was nothing left? And, just you think about that, what do people want? Right. It's like, what do you want? You're a young guy. How old are you again?
25.
Wow. That's awesome. Man, 25. I'm sure you have goals, like where you want to be at the end, like just to keep it short, at the end of this year, where you want to see yourself, at the end of next year. We had a really crazy last year, but it's like a lot of people are starting over or restarting some certain things. It's like, where are you going to be at 30? And I'm sure you've thought about a lot of these things and a lot of people. And it's like, well, I want to be doing this, that, and the other thing, self-help and everything like that. But it's like, at the end of the day, from my very short time on this planet, it's what is going to make me the happiest and how am I going to fulfill and be of service? Yep. And that sounds like a bunch of bullshit to a lot of people, but, summer slows down for me, right? And a lot of my clients, they travel with their families. And I get so excited because I'm like, oh man, I can golf more. I can do this and like all these other things that I don't do. And in reality, I live a really full life and live something that it took a long time to build with the help of a lot of really awesome people, including my wife. And it's like when those things happen and I'm like, oh, it's slow. I don't like it because then I'm forced to look at other things that I may have not been paying attention to, certain things in my own self, certain things in certain relationships and friends and certain things in business where I've been like, man, has this been really happening? Nothing detrimental, but like, man, I don't like this and I have to change it. So it's a crazy thing to be a business owner. It's a crazy thing when your primary focus of other people, which is when you're a trainer, that's your focus and being accountable to those people and those people leave, you're like, wait a second, I have all these other things that I need to be doing and kind of do, but not to the best of my ability.
Yeah. I like that you highlighted the business side of it, because that's, I have a few, tidbits that I try and give. I do a personal training prep course for young college students. And, there's a few like staples that I try and tell them. And the big one that I always harp on, I say, you can have the alphabet behind your name with degrees and certifications. You can be the best programmer on the planet. You could name every bone, muscle, and joint, whatever it is, you could have the most knowledge. If you cannot sell, if you cannot market yourself, those skills in the personal training context in the fitness industry are somewhat useless, because if you can't market who you are, no one's going to be able to train with you. If you don't have the personality and the bravado, no one's going to want to know you. No one's going to be near you. And if for some people, I understand, like, they realize, like you said, like, oh man, maybe I don't want to be in personal training. Maybe I do better in lab work where I'm not as, involved in trying to market myself and sell myself. That's okay. But I always think it's really important to highlight that, because it's not really taught quite a lot in exercise science. You have like a class or two, maybe about like business models, but you're not taught like, here's how you sell. Here's how you have a really good conversation where it doesn't seem like you're trying to sell someone something. Here's how you build relationships and networking. We're not really taught that in college. So I think it's really cool to highlight that.
I totally agree with all of what you just said. And I think one thing too, and I'm sure it was about to leave your mouth, is, we're also not taught to, how to properly walk away and know our worth and our value. And again, that comes with time too. And it's, I used to, like I said, do intro packs for people, just to say, hey, give me, 2 sessions a week for 10 sessions. So you're 5 weeks, right? Give me a month and if you feel different or you see results, this is what we'll keep doing. And this is what it will cost. But like I said, transparency,
yep.
Being fully upfront with them. This is what, again, even to the fact is like, if you miss one, or if we don't reschedule it, that's okay. But like, if you don't show up and there's not proper time to, rebook, and you just decide one day that you're tired and you don't want to show up because like you don't feel like it, well, that session's gone. Mm-hmm. And I say that things happen. Listen, things happen, but
absolutely,
it's knowing the value and knowing your worth. And I think
it's having respect for yourself too. At the end of the day, It's like, where do you draw that line?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, it's sometimes it's hard to get the point. It's like, well, this is what my time's worth. And you hear it like, you hear speakers that are, motivational, let's just say. And 1 year they're, just starting and their business is off the ground and people are finding out about them. And, maybe let's just say to speak at somewhere, it's like a couple grand. Fast forward 5 years later and they're the most sought after person, and to be somewhere costs them more for their time. And it's, well, it used to be a couple grand. You're now a couple $100,000. It's like, well, yeah, when I'm doing this, I could be doing this, and this is what my time is worth.
Yep.
And again, you have to be within reason, but like, I know people, there's an incredible gym down in Miami that the trainers, they pay a high premium to be there. They're working with high quality athletes to regular people. And, they're charging $300 an hour.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I've been in these workshops and I've been in like, different things where people come in and they're like, yeah, I charge $30 for an hour. And I'm like, okay, well, if your end goal is to do something, or like you're just doing this for fun, and again, your bills are getting paid otherwise, hey man, have at it. You want to do it for free? Great. If you have the ability to do that. But I think a lot of people can undervalue themselves. And like you said, I don't want to say undersell, but just share, like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I want to do this. This is why I want to help you. If this makes sense, we move forward. Oh, well, that's not, it's not that you're not worth my time and like devaluing you as a trainer. It's just, it's not again, we can get to this discussion too. It's not a priority to them.
Yeah.
And it's not worth what they're willing to put forward, because they may not show up.
Yeah.
Or, and I think that's the thing. It's like, you put high of enough price, or like a, cancellation fee. And it's like, I'm going to give this person proper time if I need to cancel, because I respect their time and what they're doing and how they're helping others. And, it's a fine line. And it's one that I think people, again, through personal experience, hands-on experience, you have to walk through. And And if you can stand your ground with certain things, and again, be a human being in the process,
Yes.
it's awesome.
And I think one last really good point. I think I heard, it might have been Joe Drake, I heard maybe on an Instagram live say this. He was saying something about, like, you know, being okay with people saying no, like, to your services, right? So if you know your worth and you're comfortable with your worth and what you're asking for, you know, most people are probably going to tell you no, or I'm sorry, I can't, or I just don't have the time, the energy, the resources, money, whatever. And then I think a lot of people hear that and they get scared and they think, oh, I'm too expensive, or oh, I'm not worth that time, and I'm not worth that money, so I need to be cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. If some people can't afford you, that's okay. There are plenty of people out there who can. So don't think just because I'm striking out a bunch that I have to immediately change myself. Now, there is a potential the other way, right? Like, you know, you just got certified yesterday and you're like, I'm $300. That's my hourly rate. It's like, probably not, but maybe you're, you know, if you priced yourself way too low, maybe that's not necessarily what you should have done at the time.
Yeah. And I think, you know, there's a give and take. And like I said, I mean, there's also, you know, you can help people, and there's going to be people that you're going to want to help that really are in a bad way. And again, you make the end decisions. When you work for yourself, you make the end decisions, and there's no one else to blame or point fingers at except you at the end of, you know, the experience for that client. So, you know, it's a give and take. There's, you know, there's things that come up and there's decisions that need to be made. And, you know, sometimes you have clients where it's like, you know, this isn't a good fit, you know, and you're working with them and you realize the training relationship has run its course, and it's a really difficult, challenging navigation at that point, of saying, you know, like, hey, like, you know, I'm going to refer you to somebody else, or, you know, this isn't working for me, this time, this space. And, you know, because there's a lot, you know, you know, personal trainers will get, you know, the shit sometimes and be like, you know, you're glorified, you know, coaches, in terms of like, you're just there to listen and you're like a psychologist. I'm not, again, psychologist, whatever, do intensive amounts of schooling and hours and mental health. But, you know, you sit there, you listen to people, like when they're working out, it's usually, there's a lot of conversation going on. And I always, you know, tell trainers, you know, relate, you know, if you can be there and listen. And at the end of the day, yeah, it's a give and take relationship, but they're there paying you for you to be there and how they want you to be there while getting a great workout.
Yes.
People will disagree with me, and that's fine. But you know, it's like, you can relate to your client, but don't start talking to your client about your problems or what you have going on, because like I said, relate, but it's their session. It's for them. That's what they're there for. And I think that also too happens often. And again, I'm just speaking from my personal experience. So I'm like, why am I talking about this? You know, it's like, I can relate, but now I'm like on to me, and I'm doing more of the talking. You're like, what am I doing?
No, I completely understand. Yeah, it's a tough one with building rapport is again, that's another area I wish there was more, you know, conversation on in college. There are definitely classes that focus on that with personal training, but building rapport, especially for young trainers, is huge, because relationships, like you mentioned, like getting invited to your client's son's graduation, man, like that shows like the relationship and the time, the energy invested, which is all stuff that we love to hear. So that's awesome, man. The one thing that I always like to ask people who are in the fitness industry who are involved in training, because I always like to hear the different answers, is what their fitness philosophy is, like what it means to them to be a trainer, to be a coach, to be a instructor, whatever it may be. So if you had to kind of sum it up into a short, sweet sentence or two, what would you kind of say is your fitness philosophy?
Whew. That's a great question. And I know when people say that, it's like they're stalling, but like, I'm just trying to think of my experience over the years, and like, you know, my philosophy changed.
Mine changes all the time.
It changes. And again, I think, you know, my philosophy, you know, with anything, if you're going to do anything, do it 100% and give maximum effort. But that's in a lot of things. So, you know, I try to provide, my philosophy for my clients is I try to provide them with a safe place to work out, to excel at something, to get anything that they have going on out while benefiting from, moving their body and facilitating, healthy movement patterns. And, I can literally describe all the stuff that but I want people to have a great, here's my philosophy. I want people to have a great, safe, great fucking time working out and having a good experience. The experience for me is everything. Right. I'm an experienced guy. Some people sure. Do I like material things? Yeah. But I love experiences. I like going places and experiencing things. And I want people to experience, I described my former feeling about working in corporate. It's I want you to be excited on the way there, while there. And when you're leaving there, feel as though you had done something that you wouldn't have done otherwise.
Yes.
I
love that. Absolutely. One of the big tenets of the shift method that I always preach to people is enjoyment. We got good research that shows that people enjoy what they're doing, specifically in a fitness context. They're more likely to adhere to it. They're more likely to participate in it. They're more likely to work harder for it. And then people always, I've heard, disagreements on that. And they say, well, so working out should be easy. It's no. Just because you enjoy something doesn't mean it's easy. I love basketball. I love playing it. I love watching it. When I play, I work harder than almost any physical thing I do. I'm drenched in sweat. I'm playing 1 to 2 hours every time I play. My heart rate's in the 150s, 170s throughout the entire duration. It's not easy, but I love it. It doesn't feel like I'm exercising.
Are you a Tenacious D guy?
Tenacious D.
Yeah, not the band. I'm saying, did you play when you play that hard?
Usually absolutely. Lockdown clamps are on, bro. No one. Yeah, I'm not the best offensive guy. I'm more of a mid-range and just put my head down, drive the ball to the hoop. But on defense, I'm doing my best to lock it up, man. That's where that's my bread and butter. And the thing is too, no one likes to play, and I'm usually the most conditioned person on the court. So who's ever with me is going to have a great time, or a hell of a time, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah, they get pissed off at your excitement.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, and then at the end of the day, that's how I get majority of my cardiovascular fitness in, and I just look like I'm playing a game. I'm having a great time, man. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because making it an experience and an enjoyable one, that's a great way to get people involved, man. Very, very cool.
Yeah, no, that's why I also say safe too, because
yes, it's a good point.
I'm glad you quoted Joe Drake. He's an incredible trainer and trainer of trainers. So
yes. And, perfect segue, man, because last kind of things I want to talk about to put a bow on this little segment here on the fitness side of things is talk about some of the partnerships that you have, or some of the relationships that you have. First one being with Axiom Academy with Joe Drake. So can you kind of just outline, what kind of, if you do any work with Axiom, or kind of just, your relationship with Joe Drake in general?
The funny thing is I don't have any. So relationships, relationships are give and take. And as you grow, you find people that align with what you're doing, or you align with what they're doing. And I think, a lot of the things for me is when someone's trying to crack into this industry or trying to figure it out, and they want to learn more, I would say 100% refer them to Joe Drake and Axiom because of what he does. I mean, he travels all over the world, trains trainers, has a ton of experience hands-on. I think I like how he works with his clients. I like who he is as a person. I know him outside of the gym, and I've gotten to know him a lot better in the last couple of years. I remember meeting him when he was at FAU, and he was still kind of figuring stuff out. So it's cool to watch the journey of people and how they navigate. He married a rock star fitness woman, have 2 kids. There's certain people you come into contact with where you're like, yeah, this person's doing the fucking deal, and it's really cool to watch, and it's really cool to watch it unfold. But yeah, no, as far as that, I don't have any official partnerships or anything, but relationships are work. And, I've gotten to know Joe, and, sent a lot of people there that are now thriving in the fitness industry, that have learned from him and the people that they were taking class with. So it's something I think is really important, to build those relationships. I feel like a lot of people, when you're trying to just do it by yourself, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. I find a lot of people can fail because this is a community, and if you're trying to build
or get burnt out, like you talked about. It's easy to get burned out when you're alone.
Man, it's easy to burn out. And I think, when you have good partnership and you have the ability to say, like, Joe Drake is one of the more well-versed people. One of the coaches that he coaches with too is this guy, Josh G, one of the more well-versed people that I know in terms of the industry, but they're two different. Like Josh is more quiet and more, really just like kind of that cerebral approach. And, again, watching his videos versus watching Joe, they're both trying to accomplish the same thing, but they reach different people because of who they are.
Yep.
And I think, those relationships, are again, what make this community. So, Axiom's a great program that help people. So I'd always recommend people there. Based on my other business, there's a lot of gyms out there. I like to support as many people as possible. If they have me, support them. If they don't want that, that's their choice too. And that's cool. Like I respect that. Sometimes it hurts because it's like, man, I want to, get in there and do whatever. Like I took a group fitness class. I haven't taken one in a long time because I've been doing my own training, but it was nice to change up my routine, knowing full well, like I wanted to hit this podcast, more energized and after a great workout. And, I think it's I think if everybody tried to, I don't want to say got along and everything, the world comes together, but like everybody just realized, like, sure, there's, on this block alone, there's 10 gyms.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't feel threatened by anybody. And I think it's great. Everybody offers what they offer and people are going to go there and there's plenty of pie to go around. So it's like those relationships, in addition to like the professional ones, that trying to kind of circle that question and sum it up, is essential to growth as a person, growth as a business and a business owner, and growth as a community.
Yeah. I think if we realize that, like you mentioned, there's plenty of people who need help. There's plenty of people who can, benefit from our services. And when we realize that it is, feast, not famine, that we don't have to necessarily, of course, there's always gonna be competition, right? It's my method versus your method, whatever it may be, but we don't have to put each other down. Actually, I would argue that by supporting one another, it actually benefits everyone because, like you said, you build that network, they refer to you, you refer to them. It helps everyone regardless of what you're trying to promote. So I think that definitely, highlighting those things and those people like Joe Drake, who is a rock star, we're lucky to have him locally, is a tremendous thing.
Yeah. He's a good dude.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. The last one I want to talk about is, so I remember I met you at a local gym in Boca, and I was fortunate enough to get to talk to you a little bit, learn about, your business, learn about your training a little bit. I always remember you would be wearing, supporting and repping Lulu all the time. And you would talk with I remember Murphy. You guys are always talking about Lulu. I'm like, man, this is silly. That stuff is so dang expensive. Why are you guys wearing that? Yada, yada, yada. Turns out.
Wait, say it again.
Oh, I remember you would always come in your sessions and you would always talk with Murphy, one of the guys who would train, one of the tennis players that would train at the gym that I met you at. And you guys were always wearing Lululemon. And I would always be like, what are these guys doing? That stuff's so expensive. Why don't they just wear? Now come to find out a few years later, I'm now addicted. So thank you for that. I'm addicted to Lulu. It is a phenomenal brand. And of course, with that trainer discount, it hurts just a little bit less, But no, I appreciate you introducing me to the company, because otherwise I don't know if I would have, gotten into them. But yeah, they make an amazing product. And I remember this might have been not even a year ago. I'm at the one at the Boca Mall, and I look on the wall and I'm like, I know that guy. There's like a picture on the wall. It's like on it looks like Deerfield Beach. And I'm like, I know that guy. What the heck is he doing up there? So do you have kind of like is it a partnership with Lululemon or did you do advertising with them? What was that?
So they had an ambassador program that was pretty cool. And the ambassador program was essentially something where it's people that are in the community, and it typically focused on, yoga people, but they kind of expanded the category. So there was like yoga, running, fitness, health and wellness, business owners. and it was just people that were in the community. And I was very fortunate to be a part of them for a couple of years, to be an ambassador for a couple of years with them, and officially was retired to become a legacy ambassador, as they call it now, where you still do work in the community and you still, support them and they support you. And it's really cool company, that they do that for the local, community, fitness, wellness. They have a tremendous ability to give out grants, as they're a $1 billion company, and do things that, anybody that's trying to improve where they live through movement, through yoga, through wellness, through anything, they're super supportive. So it was a cool run. I had a great team of people. There's a great people that, were before me, and I'm sure there's going to be a great number of people after me, that, partner up with Lululemon, that, give back. So, Joe is the new era of Lululemon ambassador, and he's doing a great job. And, it was an honor. It was cool. It ran its course, and I'm very, very grateful for the experience.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And this is not a sponsored ad. If it was, I'd be happy. But
sponsored by Lulu, that'd be pretty good.
Right. But for all my fitness people out there, just in case you don't know, if you've been under a rock for the last few years, as a fitness professional, you do get a discount at Lululemon. So all you need is usually a copy of your certification or proof that you're in the industry actively somehow. You just go to the local store, you give them your cert, they make a copy of it, whatever. And I think you get I think it's 25%, if I remember correctly, with the Sweat Club discount. So,
at this point, I don't even remember, because it was such a journey, and it was just, it was a lot. It was a lot for sure.
Yeah. So definitely worth checking out. Trust me, it is 100% worth it. Shifting the conversation a little bit, my man. Sure. I'm actually very excited to talk about this next part, because I don't know how much I've talked to you about this, but I actually have a good amount of family, previously or currently, that are involved in recovery. And so it's a personal thing for me, but I also think this is a good conversation, because a big part of what I talk about is the, fitness is not just the physical aspect. It is the psychological and mental aspect of, how are we treating ourselves? How are we, dealing with certain ailments or things that we might be going through? And part of that starts with conversations and just, talking about it, normalizing it, in the sense of like, hey, we're not shunning people. We're not doing anything like that. So I'm really excited to hear, your perspective on this, sir, and your story, Co. Can you kind of just talk about your kind of journey through the recovery process?
Well, I'm pretty public about that. I made a lot of really poor decisions. I've been in the recovery world, I guess you'd say. I've been sober since 2010, so just celebrated 11 years.
That's awesome, and congratulations.
Thank you. And for the beginning part of that, it was kind of relearning how to be a human being. I had great parents. I had a great childhood, and I've heard some some really challenging and hardships that people have walked through, and it makes when you hear other people's stories, you're like, man, what's my deal? But I struggled with drugs and alcohol for a long time, and they became kind of a driving force in my life, as what I alluded to earlier about making poor decisions. I was very fortunate to find a program of recovery down here, a supportive community down here that really lifted me up and loved me when I couldn't love myself. I also got extra professional help and was able to attend a treatment program, or a rehabilitation program during the summer of 2010. And again, it was the first time, I was 28 years old when I walked into that world, crawled into that world, I guess is a better term. Yep. And I think everybody has their way of talking about it and working through it. It took me a while. I was very once I could say those words that I was an alcoholic or an addict, it felt good to say it, because I've been I knew it for so long, and I didn't really say it for a long time because I was embarrassed and ashamed. Today I can talk about it, because I think, it was crazy. Once that flip switched, and I realized how big the recovery community down here was. When you don't know, you don't know. It's like anything else. If you don't know about it, you don't know about it. And I was like, man, this helped change my life, and this helped kind of guide me into ways of doing things that I'd never done before. And some of them were really simple, like one of the most mind-blowing statements I ever heard was from somebody when I was just getting sober. And I was like, you never have to feel this way again. And that can apply to so many things, like you never have to feel depressed. And again, I know I'm not discounting depression or anything in the medical, anything like that. So this is just my experience when it's just like, when someone says something that simple, it blew my mind. And again, it's like, people could say and poke holes in that. It's like, oh yeah, well, dude, if you have cancer, you never have to feel that way again. You have cancer. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not referring to like chronic. I don't even get in this debate, but the way I
get you.
I never have to feel this way again. And here's the things that I need to do on a daily basis to hopefully get through the day without wanting to. So, finding something greater than myself, a higher power, a universal guide that, I can believe in. I was taught to, I was kind of guided in that way. And same thing. It's like, I ask questions, I not like, why am I doing this or anything? It's like, why is this working for you? I saw people that it worked in, and it's like anything else. When someone's doing something and it's working for them, typically you can approach that person if you know them, or someone that knows them, or even if you don't know them, and say, hey man, like, congrats on everything, man. How are you doing this? Mm-hmm. And hopefully they're, as honest as possible with you, because, chances are they'd want to share that with you if they want to improve, your life. Because, I do here's my first plug. I do a podcast myself, and it's on routine, rituals, and consistency. And it's called the Wake Up the Sun Show. And I have everybody on the show, from business owners to fitness professionals to, men, women, kids. And it's one of those things where you find what drives them and what makes them work. And that's typically, very much aligned with, like, successful people have successful habits, and there's a lot of similar things said differently, but like those people typically will share, not the fact that they're just on a podcast, but share things that, like, that some people I've known for almost 10 years. And like, I was like, man, I had no idea you did that. Yeah. Or this practice that you engage in. So I think, talking about it, discussing it when you're ready, or, you feel more comfortable, or even, like, again, like, sometimes getting into that discomfort, helps you walk through it. And that was big for me. I worked so hard to get to go to college, and to go to grad school, and to go to grad school twice, and to get these degrees, like you were talking before about, in the fitness world, all the degrees and this and that, mm-hmm. and specialists in here and that, and the kettlebell, whatever. And it's like, no one, whatever that saying is, like, no one really gives a shit how much unless they know how much you care. And, yep. I found that, the more that, I sought out people that were doing the deal and doing the right thing, and asking them, like, hey, what do you think about this? And really learning kind of the process of everything, it became, more familiar to me. And, again, you talk about fear, you talk about, like, feelings, like feeling mm-hmm. your feelings, and I'm a sensitive guy, and there's certain things that, like, that rubbed me the wrong way, and it usually has nothing to do with anybody else. It's just where I'm at, and my level of comfort or discomfort. So I think it really helps to, I don't want to downgrade anything or take away from anything, but I think self-help is great, therapy is great, talking to a professional is great. Making sure you're talking to somebody that, you can lay your stuff on, that's not going to bring them down. I think everybody, the more we can converse about certain things that are uncomfortable, the better it is. And again, that's just my experience, and I'm not telling people what to do, but that's what worked for me. That's the reason I'm married today, is like communication with my wife, and really talking about things that, like, I otherwise wouldn't talk about with people, or from former relationships, and just being, for lack of a better word, direct, and be like, hey, you're not causing me to feel this. this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
You know, like being just kind of like vulnerable in that sense.
I love that. Now, did you originally come to Florida for recovery, or was there another reason you moved down here?
Yeah, so I came down here for a job. I was down here actually visiting a friend, trying to dry out, if you will, knowing that he was a sober man. And I got offered a job down here, like funny enough, through like a teacher placement service that led me to walk into an interview while I was here, and then change the whole course of my life to come down here. And, you know, I was in just a dark place. You know, I love what I did. I love teaching. I love coaching. And I just got to a point where, you know, my personal decisions regarding alcohol, drugs, and, you know, that life got in the way and everything kind of crashed together and blew up at once. And I was very fortunate to be here and to finally ask for help and to be able to be in a place to receive it, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Because people have been trying to help me for years, and I was just like, nah, we're good.
South Florida is a really good spot. I don't know comparatively to, you know, lots of parts of the country, but I have family members again who are in AA or NA, and I've been to a handful of meetings throughout my life. And you always hear people introduce themselves and where they're from. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of people from around the entire country here. And I was always trying to figure out, I'm like, and then I learned, you know, later in life, like, wow, we have a really big, prominent and helpful, you know, recovery community. So, you know, it's cool that you're able to come down here or as circumstance had it, you had the job interview and you ended up in a really good spot. So that's awesome to hear, man. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Cause again, it goes back to what you said, is having conversations like that, I think, are very important for mental health, for whatever it may be. It's like, let's just talk about it, and let's not, like, you know, demonize people or shun. Like that's silly to me. And I also like that you outlined habits, because a big part of what I talk about is, you know, changing behavior, right? Again, you know, you can have the best workout program, you can have the best personality. At the end of the day, when you're working with people to better themselves, they're changing behavior, right? You're going from one behavior and you're shifting it to another. You're going from being inactive, focusing on TV and whatever else it may be, to getting up early and, you know, working out, right? So habits, whatever you can do consistently over time,
right?
And then you can transition that to something else consistently over time. Usually you have to replace something, right? People think like, oh, I can just stop doing this and I can just go to this. It's like, how can we gradually move things over time? And that's actually the main reason I named my company the Shift Method. It's, I crap on the fitness industry sometimes. I love it and hate it. You know, there's things that I wish we can change. I'm hoping to change them. But I think one of the big things that upsets me with the fitness industry, or part of the fitness industry, is these, you know, large swings in trends, right? It's like, you have to do this workout, you have to eat this food, you have to do this now. And it's like, we try and change everything so quickly at once, and we expect the majority of people to pick up on that and change their life drastically to make this improvement.
Well, that's common in a lot of things, you know. And when I taught for a long time, I taught for about 8 years, and there's always a new way of learning, a way of doing things, and I'm all for change and all for different things. And I remember I went to one school, and it's like they're implementing one thing, and it takes time to implement things. And if it doesn't warrant the results right away and immediacy, so it's like that. We live in that society, and I get it. You know, because I want when I want it. Like, if this isn't changing, I need to change it immediately. And for certain, that rings true. But for programming and a lot of different things in the fitness world, there's, you know, it's like people think, oh, I invented this move, or I invented group fitness. Like, yeah, no, you didn't. You know, and I invented this move where you stay. It's like, if that, okay, great, sure. You know, like, I'm not trying to debate or fight you on that. If that's what gets you fired up, man, then like rock and roll, man, have at it, you know?
Yeah. I always say that, you know, your habit changing, your behaviors, whatever, is a shift over time. And a shift by definition is a small incremental change. So it's going, you know, it's not just like, hey, I've been inactive for 3 years and immediately now I'm going to the gym 5 days a week. I'm rising up, I'm cutting my calories by 10%, whatever it may be. People think I need to change all these behaviors at once. It's like, no, a couple things at a time, maybe even one at a time. If for someone, they need to start there. And then slowly but surely we add it. And when you look at the grand scheme of your life, right, like the last couple of years or the last 10 years, and you think, man, those little tiny changes that I did they look so small in the present, but when I look over at the grand scale of things, I made this huge, amazing change, and now look where I am, right?
Yeah. It's tough to see. It's like, see the forest
You
from the
can't
tree.
see it. Yeah, you can't see it when you're in it, unfortunately.
And it's one of those things where you're like, how did I get to this point? And it's one of the, we're talking about being like slower for the summer. I get to a point where I'm like, man, like there's a lot of things I need to really work on. There's a lot of things that I need to really get better at.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's one of those things that like I find, is hard to do, because you get sometimes when you feel like successful or you feel like you've accomplished something, it's, oh man, like how am I back at this point of like not feeling 100% about certain things that at one point I was striving to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So it's definitely tough to look at that when you feel like some sort of success. And it was, someone once told me, they're like, if you're going to take credit for the good, make sure you take credit for the bad, or don't take any credit at all.
Yeah.
And just put forth the effort and just realize like the results are going to come and how you walk through that. And again, that may bother some people because they're like, man, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And when at one point I was getting my life together, I said that, and walking through it and you not really knowing what's going to happen. It's just like the business. It's like it's anything else. It's like, if you're doing anything for an end result, you have an expectation. If that end result isn't met, and again, we'll go against some people on how they figure out goals and things like that. Mm-hmm. But it's, as long as you love it and you're excited about it and you're happy about it, chances are you're going to make money at it and you're going to succeed at it because you're putting good out there.
Yeah. Some may say, yeah, there was a famous psychologist, I can't remember his name, but it's like something along the lines of like the pursuit of meaning has to do with the journey, not the end result or not the goal. A big part of, the enjoyment in life, in fitness, and reaching your goals and your, whatever you're pursuing is those little day-to-day things. It's not like, yes, of course it's fulfilling when you see that number on the scale.
And say life's a journey, not a destination.
There you go, right? There you go. That's a good way to put it.
Go back there, just throw that right in there.
Boom. Love it, right? But that's a really true thing. Is like people do enjoy seeing the end result, of course, right? Because that's what you're aiming for. But if you take away all the middle part, it's like you just go from here to here. It's like, where was the journey? Where was the adventure? Where was the fun, right? I mean, of course, there's going to be some lows in there involved, but that's part of life and that's part of the story. So I definitely can resonate with that. The last part for this segment, sir, is talking about, do you have any kind of, with being involved in the recovery community, do you kind of do anything, fitness related in the community, or do you kind of do any outreach programs, or do you do anything kind of like that?
We've done some fundraisers in the past. We partnered with one of the local centers here, and we've done some 5Ks with some of the local centers. Some of the treatment centers we sent, we did like kind of I ran the New York City Marathon back in 2016. Nice. And after that, we sent two people, a male and a female, to run the marathon and raise funds for that. I mean, they're popping up all the time. Some of the original ones that were around temperance training. That's based at a CrossFit Hype in Boca Raton and Delray, started by a couple buddies of mine that were kind of, there's so many out there. Mm-hmm. And they started this one down here, and that's been the most prevalent. So temperance training is huge. A buddy of mine also started one that's on Friday nights and a couple other different nights, based out of kind of where I met you, which was Impact Sports, now FTX Wellness. And that's RTR, or the Dreamer Project. Mm-hmm. There's also a couple guys that started something more related to yoga and meditation. Sorry, not yoga, but meditation, Mantra Misfits, this guy Scott and Tom. I mean, the list goes on, man. Like every day there's something coming up, and it's really cool to watch because, people are trying to be a haven for that recovery community, different CrossFits, different gyms, the 11th hour, like or the 11th Element. I don't want to missay names, but like they keep popping up. And I always say this, it doesn't matter whether you're first, last, in the middle. If you're doing something that is providing a service to help people, then, that's awesome.
Absolutely. I love it, man. The last thing I want to talk about, and the other conversations are very, very, very important, but I'm excited to talk about this because I have had a few conversations with you about it, but I don't know an extreme amount about it. So I'm excited to hear about the story. And that is your company, FroPro.
Right.
I'll never forget, working at the time, Impact Sports Performance, doing my, young intern. And I was looking in the fridge. I needed a snack. I'm like, oh, what's this FroPro stuff, man? And I see it's, peanut butter or almond butter based. I'm like, because I love peanut butter. It's like one of my top foods. So I'm like, and I talked to you, and he's like, that's my company. I'm like, let me try this thing, cold peanut butter based snack. Let me try this. I fell in love immediately. It is, phenomenal. And again, going to preface, this is not a paid sponsorship. Marketing. Matt hasn't given me anything under the table, nothing like that. It is a really, really delicious snack, my man, and it is amazing. So if anyone has in their local area, would definitely recommend trying it. But all that's to kind of lead up to saying, can you kind of just outline, what FroPro is exactly for our listeners?
Sure. It's an organic peanut butter snack bar made with gluten-free oats, honey, cinnamon, and then a variety of other things depending on the flavor. I started making it essentially because I really couldn't travel around. At the time, I was not driving, and I live in South Florida. So my travel itinerary consisted of a bike, a backpack, a change of clothes because it rains frequently down here. Mm-hmm. And I had to essentially bring stuff with me to eat that wouldn't spoil or go bad or be disgusting. I just started making some things in my kitchen, used a regular old brownie tin and just started kind of making a snack bar for myself. And what's crazy is what's happened to this point, sitting in an office here on Clintmore Road that produces quite a few amount of these different snack bars. We started with one flavor that, like I said, I was making for myself. It was just chocolate peanut butter. And we now have, 13 different peanut butter flavors, 3 different almond butter flavors, some that are seasonal, some that are not. Again, starting from something in my kitchen to, sharing it with the community, sharing with other people allowing me to share it with their clients in certain gyms and juice bars and coffee houses, to, being sold in Whole Foods and online and Amazon. And it's really, I didn't set, we share this often, my wife and I, and my wife is now a part of this company and literally runs the company in the day to day. I didn't start this to have a business or to make a business or to do anything other than, hey, I really like this product that I'm making for myself. I shared it with the community. I shared it with people, and put in a lot of work and time and sacrifice, and showed up. And that's kind of what got to us to where we are today. And I say this with, as much sincerity as possible. Is like, we just feel like we're getting started. I
always see you on Instagram. It always seems like you guys are promoting something or doing something awesome. So it's really exciting to see that process.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate, very grateful. My wife's a rock star. I will sing her praises to the end of time. She came, I was doing this for myself as an idea in 2011. I worked at it myself, became a business in 2013. 7 days a week, all the other things. I was working the corporate job. I started training. I was doing all these different things. And, when she came on in 2016 from her experience in running a different business and industry, but learning how to run a business and her time there, just got to the point where, we were able to eventually stop renting space from a commercial kitchen, build out our own. And, with all of that comes a lot more responsibility and awesome. And just step in and, ups and downs. And, we're just super grateful. And it's really a tremendous thing to think about. I don't like sitting down. I'm sitting in an office that was essentially made for me to sit down and do things like this and to have meetings, to I don't like to sit still very long.
I can relate to
This
that.
this is probably the longest podcast I've ever done. And it's been great, but just, FroPro is just kind of an experience built from, a small idea that was, for me, selfishly, that I got to share with a lot of people, and a lot of people that said, "Hey man, like this is really good. You should run with this." And, here we are.
I love it. Also, I'm an anti person too. So if you need to bang out like 20 burpees mid podcast, I'm cool with that. I'll edit out the hyperventilating, but we'll be good, man. We'll make it work.
You're good. You're good.
No, that's awesome, man. And part of the reason, I see, like I mentioned on Instagram, always doing cool things, and I remember the company, but I just started training at a Johnny O's gymnasium in Boca, doing some independent contracting there. And of course, I look in the fridge, and what do I see? I see FroPro, and I'm like, man, I should really reach out to that guy, because I remember those conversations. I remember that company. So yeah, it's really cool. And then I remember you mentioning it being in Whole Foods, and I'm like, man, you made something that's in Whole Foods. Like that's got to be a pretty cool feeling to see like your product in a store like that.
It is. Yeah, it's coming back to the discussion of when things slow down and kind of looking at certain things and taking meetings and learning about business. Cause I was not in the consumer goods, I didn't go to school for that or anything, and I'm learning a lot as I go, but it really is cool. It's cool to be, Johnny O's probably one of the nicest guys on the planet.
Yes, he is.
I remember meeting him and his wife years ago, when I was just getting started, and, just to be able to, watch someone else's journey and to watch him open his gym and his passion and what he does, and Alicia, and to see all the people that come in and out of there. I'm just grateful to be a part of it. It's like, there's so many great people that are out there. And again, you'll find greatness if, you search for it, and there's a lot of challenging people out there, and each group of people will make you grow in certain ways. Not all accounts have materialized, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just being transparent with everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, when we talked about fitness, but it's just like, if you have something and you want to share it and it makes sense, great. I think forcing anything, like I'm the worst salesman in terms of that. It's like, I don't force anything on anybody. Right. If I'm given the opportunity, I'm going to give you 100%. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes it does. I'm really grateful to be over at Johnny O's. I got to get that guy on my podcast at some point. You just can't keep that guy. You can't keep that guy quiet or sitting still. He's just like a ball of positive energy at all times, which is so great. But yeah, man, it really is cool to sit and to see. My favorite thing is going out and grabbing like a coffee and supporting those local businesses that, that are out there that have been challenged with all the things that happened last year, and to watch somebody buy it. And like, I love buying people FroPros. It's one of my favorite things. Like when I see people trying, like, oh, do you like that? And if they're like big, even if they're fans, they buy it all the time. I just like saying like, hey, thank you for the support. Let me buy that one. Let me buy you lunch. Cause again, it was what was done for me, when I started over. So I think that's important.
Absolutely. Now I know you mentioned, I didn't even know this, that you sell them on Amazon, which is awesome. So now you can go anywhere, but is it only
on our site though? We prefer them on www.gofropro.com.
There you go. Can people buy them at their local store? Is it only available in South Florida, or is it available other places?
We ship nationwide. We just did a huge rebrand, repackaging, reboxing. We improved the site based on what people asked for. So there's more of a customization aspect to it. There's more of a curated feel to it. There's still the standard box purchases that you can do, but we ship everywhere. Out of country is challenging, but we've shipped as far as the West Coast up to Alaska, pretty much anywhere. And locally, we're in all the Florida Whole Foods. So anywhere in Florida, if you're listening, you go to your local Whole Foods. There's 9 SKUs in there, so you can get those. Online is probably best if you're looking for that customization, because there are some flavors not available at Whole Foods. The best part about living in Florida is a lot of people that don't live here take the product with them, and we sell it in a couple other states. Some we had trouble supporting when the whole pandemic happened. Some people shut down. Some things it was tough to support. So, we're redoing a lot of things. Coming out of what we're coming out of. Hopefully, the world will continue to open, and we'll be able to share the product and start to expand up the coast and into certain other parts of the country that we feel we'll do well at.
I love that, man. I love that. What does the future hold for you personally, with your businesses, with training, with FroPro, whatever you can share? What does the future look like, or what do you hope it looks like?
Well, I'm going to be 40 in September, which is crazy because there was a point in time where I didn't think I'd make it to 40. I thought I would. Yeah, I mean, I say that because I shouldn't be sitting here today based on my current life, my former life decisions back, 11 years ago. As far as we're trying to do is we're trying to, share our story, share the experience that, we've had as a small business that, we've grown into. And, I'm big on sharing and talking about recovery and would like to do more of that. I was right before COVID hit, I was speaking at a lot of schools and sharing, that, the good and the bad and the second chance side of things when if you get the chance to start over. I'd love to be able to carry that message, to the, as many people as possible, as many states as possible. As far as training, I have my clients, I'm not really taking on any new clients, but, I like to, continue to flourish and, with my clients and see them do and succeed. And, when the time is right, and if I'm not able to deliver maximum results, or say I'm not delivering results, if I'm not being able to deliver maximum service to my clients because of other things, then I probably will be taking a back seat to that and, referring my clients elsewhere so I can continue. So yeah, the purpose is to continue to grow FroPro, to share it, and to be a part of the experience, as best as possible. So that's kind of where we're headed. And, hopefully, you can go anywhere in the United States at some point in the next couple of years and, any Whole Foods in the United States, hopefully, and buy a FroPro.
I'll be looking for it whenever I travel, sir. I'm looking forward to seeing where life continues to take you, because always seeing you do amazing things. Again, I want to thank you so much for your time, man. This was a blast. I'm glad we got to catch up in this way. It's good to see you. Can you kind of just
congrats on all you're doing and, training over there at Johnny O's and doing this. And, like I said, sharing your experience, being a younger guy and, what's important in training and what's not, and, what you focused on, and being open to everything that's out there. So congrats.
Thank you. I really appreciate that coming for you, man. Can you kind of just let the people, where they can find you, social media, anything you want to plug with FroPro, whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find, so Instagram, you can find me M.War Williams. That's MWARWILLIAMS. That's my personal page. You can also go to @GoFroPro. That's GoFroPro. Got to plug it too, at Wake Up the Sun Show. That's on Instagram as well, and on Spotify and iTunes. And you can also go to Facebook, obviously, and find myself, Matthew Williams, or FroPro. And last but not least, to order delicious snack bars, www.gofropro.com. That's GOFROPRO.com.
See, there's the podcast voice. I knew it was in there somewhere. That was so clean. That naming. I loved it. Yeah, seriously, people. Again, if you like peanut butter or almond butter, please give it a try. You're gonna get hooked. It is delicious, and especially down here in South Florida when it gets really hot, having that cold snack, it's so good. And one thing I know, I'm going back to it, but one thing that I really liked about it is with protein bars. I love protein bars. They, especially ones that taste really good, like Metarex or anything like that. But sometimes they're hard to digest. They're very filling, and they just sometimes don't always sit well with you. One thing that I really liked about them is no matter what I was doing, whether it was pre-workout, post-workout, just throughout my day, super easy to digest, felt really good in my stomach after consuming it. Super tasty, filling, but not too filling. So I really like how it made me feel afterwards. So seriously, everyone, if you have the opportunity to try it, I'll make sure to put all those links for Matt in my description. And hey, like I mentioned, y'all know where to find me. Instagram, TikTok at @the_shift_method, trying to put out daily content for all of you, educational, fun for y'all to enjoy that. Again, the Shift Method store is open. We got shorts, t-shirts, hats, mugs, you name it. We probably got it on there. You just head to theshiftmethod.org, click on the store tab, and go ahead and scroll and pick whatever you want to pick. Services are still available. As mentioned, I'm training at a Johnny O's gymnasium. So if you're in the Boca Raton area and you'd like to train with me, go ahead and go to theshiftmethod.org, click any of the take action buttons to fill out a client intake form, or you can just message me through Instagram, direct message me, and we'll get in contact with each other. Other than that, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Matt, it was a pleasure again, sir. Hope you have a wonderful day. And that's all we got, everyone. Take care, everyone. Later.